What if I were to tell you there was a movie that combined Get Out, Inception, and Assassin's Creed all into one thing? Well, you'd probably say it would be a coked out, crazy nightmare of a movie, and you'd be right! And that movie is Possessor. So if you don't know what Possessor is, it's a film from Brandon Cronenberg, the son of the infamous David Cronenberg of The Fly and Dead Ringers fame. And Brandon Cronenberg has made this movie, which is a body horror type of movie, in the vein of Cronenberg type of movies. This is a gore-fest, body horror, cerebral, perplexing type of film. And I really enjoyed it. Now, normally in this part of these long-form reviews, I go into some context about why I chose this movie to really go into, or what led me to this point, or what this film has to offer that's so interesting, or something behind the scenes, but there's nothing, as far as I can tell, with this movie, other than I like it and I want to talk about it. This is just a movie that got made, and that's it. Brandon Cronenberg wrote it, he shot it, he directed it, he edited it, and he released it. And now it's here. This is undoubtedly the movie Brandon Cronenberg wanted to make. There's no tone-changing reshoots, there's no scuttles behind the scenes about actors hating certain actors. There's nothing like that with this movie. It is just the movie that Brandon Cronenberg wanted to make. And for better or worse, this is it. And this is something that is interesting, though, because I can't recommend this to everyone. This is a movie that will be very polarizing. If you take 10 people and watch this movie on a movie night, 4 will love it, 4 will hate it, and 2 will fall asleep. That's just how this movie is. It is a movie that you will get in as much as you put out, and if you don't like horror or gore, you will hate this. And if you're not into it, or you're on your phone, you'll hate this, or you'll fall asleep. It's just one of those movies. But for me, when I first got out of the theatrical edition of this film, I felt pretty indecisive towards it. I saw it as a very interesting movie with a unique premise that had a lot of good ideas. But unfortunately, the ideas didn't seem that well developed or explored fully to what they could be. And then I watched the uncut version, cut to 6 months later or so. And I really enjoyed it. I don't know if I just didn't get it the first time around, or if the uncut version is truly the better version, but I loved the uncut version of this movie, and that's why majorly I want to talk about it, because I got a lot more out of this than I thought I would. So the film begins with this scene, where this woman is using some sort of aux cord and volume control to change her emotional state, which is a very jarring and weird and uncomfortable way to start your film. But it is important to show the audience right up front this type of thing, because of the idea that it presents, which I won't go into quite yet, but we will get to it very soon.
Pull me out.
And so now you know this black woman was being controlled by the corpse of a white woman who used her body to kill somebody important, which is the central concept of the film. A corporation uses people to possess other people to carry out hit jobs. That is the central idea at the heart of this movie and the story. You have one character who possesses another character, and then uses that character to get close to a target, take that target out, and then get out nice and clean. That's the premise, and it is a great premise. It's very simple, though, deceptively so. Most of this movie is very straightforward, actually, and that's sort of why, from here on out, I don't think I'm going to go into this movie plot point by plot point. I will bring up certain character moments here and there, because I do feel like there are very important things that happen, but there is a lot of repetition from here on out. There is a lot of scenes of a character kind of having disassociation illusions and then maybe getting hurt or their levels spiking, and then somebody saying, your levels are spiking, are you hurt? And then the main character saying, no, she's fine. There's a lot of that, and it kind of happens over and over and over again. But the most important thing is that the main plot is about Tasia, who controls or possesses Colin Tate to kill Sean Bean, who owns this giant company. And this is all to help out Colin Tate's stepbrother to become the CEO of this giant company, who Colin Tate happens to be dating the daughter of Sean Bean. So they're using this guy to get close to the CEO, kill him, and kill the daughter, and then kill himself or herself and get out. That's the plot. And it's important that this happens sort of early, around the halfway point, I would say, because then the real meat of the story starts to come up, I would say, because then Colin Tate starts re-controlling his body, and he takes it away from our main character, and there's this sort of tug of war that happens between the two that is the meat of this story. Mainly, this movie seems to be about the loss of self, which at its heart, this is sort of a coming-of-age story. It's silly to say, but the main story is about our main character relearning who she is, kind of. It's all about our main character who doesn't know what she is, who she is, or who she wants to be. And you see that very early on when she is going over speech patterns of how she's going to say things to people she apparently loves, her boyfriend and her child.
Hi, darling. What have you got there? What have you got? Hi, darling. What have you got there? Hi, darling.
What have you got there?
God, I'm absolutely starving. I am absolutely starving, Michael.
Good, I'm absolutely starving.
She doesn't even know how to act around them. She's rehearsing lines as if she's in a play, as if she is controlling another person's body and trying to put on the mirage of herself. It's very interesting stuff that I really liked. So for my money, the film is attempting to comment on the disassociation we humans can feel in our everyday lives. In this age of oversaturation, we can frequently become lost in the never-ending stream of consciousness. Opinions, hot takes, arguments, debates, social media apps, yelling, general things. It can be very difficult to block out noise. There are so many things vying for our attention at every moment of every day, it can be incredibly numbing, and it can really wear you down over time, to the point where you may lose that sense of self. And all this comes out very nicely through the main character again, whose sole job is to control other people's brains and make them do things that they may not have done otherwise.
Do you ever think of your wife as a predator? Do you ever think of her that way?
Near the end, she even states a little obviously that she doesn't care about her boyfriend whilst a gun is being put to his head.
I loved him too. But I'm not sure if it was me.
But even more obviously, right before this is an on-the-nose monologue about how a parasite can rewrite who you are and turn you into someone you don't recognize.
And that worm ends up in her brain. And the next thing that happens is she gets an idea in there too. And it's hard to say whether that idea is really hers or it's just the worm. And it makes her do certain things.
There's also a bit with this butterfly near the beginning and the end where our main character looks at it as an object that can remind her of who she is after using the Possessor machine, making sure her brain isn't mush, essentially. And at first she says that she mounted the butterfly and she feels guilty about it, and she feels guilty to this day about doing that. But then at the end she says,
This is also mine. I killed and mounted it one summer when I was a little girl.
And this, to me, points out that this character, through the entire movie up until that point, has been putting up front after front after front for other people to make her seem like a better person than she may be. And her not saying that she feels guilty about this butterfly, not then or now, just points out that she may have been putting up a front for her boss to try and build empathy by saying that she feels guilty about killing this butterfly. And now that everybody in her life is dead except her boss, that pretense is gone, and she can just say what she feels like and be who she is. So she says she doesn't feel guilty about it. In fact, she says nothing, which is very interesting. Again, this is the most interesting parts of the movie, and it really is all hyper-focused with this main character, even though she isn't even on screen that much. It all is done so well through her and through Colin Tate, the guy she's possessing, Christopher Abbott. It's all communicated through them. And the large part of the movie is communicated through Christopher Abbott's character, Colin Tate, because he's just on screen the most. But that portion of the movie screams another interesting aspect or theme that this is presenting about its main character, in that she is using her job to get away from real life, which is something I actually relate to a lot. I don't know how many times I've used work as an excuse to get out of things.
I can't post because I have schoolwork.
Whether it's a family event or something with friends, using work as an excuse to not do something you don't want to do is a really great way to get out of something without looking like the bad guy. And that seems to like what she's doing in this. She doesn't want to say that she doesn't love her boyfriend/husband and she doesn't love her child, so she just uses work as a way to escape that. Then at the end, when she doesn't have to use that as a crutch, I imagine she doesn't, unless she really, really wants to. And that is something that is reaffirmed a lot through the movie with these little artifacts that pop up in the Possessor machine only she can see, and by her even passing out at one point and people constantly asking her if she's okay and her saying that she's fine. That happens all the time. Like I said, it's very repetitive in that way, but it continually hammers home the idea that she doesn't want to face reality. She is literally hiding behind somebody else so that she doesn't have to go back to the real world. She says that she's fine so that she doesn't have to go back into her real body, which she probably doesn't feel very secure in. And that is shown through many times when she is out of the Possessor machine, thinking about doing things as somebody else. So yes, it makes a lot of sense that she would want to spend a lot of time in the Possessor machine as someone else, which is another interesting idea that I can relate to, just basic insecurities. It'd be real nice to be somebody else at certain times. Wouldn't it be great to be Tom Cruise? Let's just go be Tom Cruise for a little bit. Wouldn't it be great to be The Weeknd? Let's just go be him for a little bit. That's something I can relate to, just having insecurities about your own life to the point where you want to be somebody else. And for her, she can literally be somebody else. So of course she takes that opportunity. She has forgotten who she is so badly that she would rather pretend to be somebody she's not, both literally and figuratively. And that is the most compelling thing about this movie by a long stretch. I do like this movie. I think the gore effects are pretty good. I think it's generally well shot and well made, and the acting is good. But without that core idea, this idea of this main character trying to avoid her everyday life through her work, through the fronts that she puts up, I don't know if this would be that interesting, which is why, again, I say I don't know if the uncut version is just that much better than the theatrical, because in the theatrical, I simply didn't get that. And for some reason, the tighter pacing of this, the more time that this lets you just kind of sit on images, really benefited my viewing experience a lot. There is so much more I pulled out of this, and the ideas feel way more full-bodied, way more explored, to the point where I can genuinely say that I think this is a good movie, and I would really recommend it. Go check out that uncut version. It's very good, honestly.